sources that will be available to you, okay, for this class. Okay, the first one is Google Classroom. How many of you have used that before? Okay, so most of you, okay. If you haven't, don't worry, it's really easy. Every day on Google Classroom, I will post what we did that day. Right, tomorrow we'll get that set up in class. I have the Chromebooks booked for that. Okay, so you will get basically just an announcement that's posted in there that'll say today we did lesson number 1, and it'll have the lesson title. There'll be a copy of the notes. There'll be a link to the podcast on my YouTube page. Right, if we did a lab, then the lab data will be posted there. Okay, the lab sheet, all of that kind of stuff. So if you miss or you need to review something, that's the place to go. All right, when you set it up, we'll get it all set up so that you have it set so you'll get an email each day that says Mr. Coderre posted this on Google Classroom, okay, and then you'll know exactly what went on that particular day. All right, the other thing that I'll put on Google Classroom is the quizzes that you are going to do in this class. You will have a quiz every Tuesday and every Thursday starting next week. Okay, I post the quizzes Monday night and Wednesday night. I give them to you ahead of time. All right, so you can go home and do them and get them figured out and come back and get hopefully 100%. I mean, it doesn't always happen that you get 100%, but you should really do pretty well, seeing as I give them to you ahead of time. All right, if your quiz mark really sucks, there's usually a reason for that. Okay, you guys can do them on your own ahead of time. They do not have the answer key, no. I'm not going to go that far. Okay, I'll give you the questions, okay, but you guys, it's your responsibility to figure them out. Right. Quizzes at the end of the year are worth, I mean, each one, not worth very much, but they add up, okay? And it's a pretty easy portion of your grade to get, right? The idea of the quizzes is that we're reviewing the material periodically that we've been going over, right? It's an easy way to review it, and it's a way to get some kind of easy marks, right? That's the purpose of it. All right, so the website that you're going to use, okay, obviously Google Classroom, when you open it up, if you have more than one class, looks like this. The join codes are here, but we'll do that tomorrow, and that's, I said, where everything will be posted. Okay, sometimes that will link back to my website, okay, which looks like this. Most of the time, you probably won't use this first page. You'll go straight to Science 10 stuff. Okay, the Science 10 stuff has a link to my YouTube channel. Okay, it's got the logo for my YouTube channel, and okay, it's got down below basically all the stuff that you're going to need. So there's a folder for lab data. If you missed a lab and you weren't here the day we did it, that's where you can find all the results for the lab. Okay, if you missed a day in chemistry, right, you can go through there and find which lesson we did, because obviously Google Classroom will tell you that. Okay, you can open that up, read over it, watch the podcast. Okay, things like that. The quizzes are also in here. That's where the quizzes will link to. There's a couple of documents here that will be useful to you. Most of these I will give to you. You have the day 1 package already. Okay, this will go over tomorrow, completing and submitting assignments. Okay, this right here, Science 10 notes package, that you need to print, and you need to print it tonight so that you have it for tomorrow. Okay, do not print it in color. It is in color, but don't print it that way. Okay? You can always look at the electronic version if you need to see the pictures in color. But if you print it in color, it's almost 70 pages, you'll be buying a new color ink cartridge the next day. Okay? And that costs money. I don't want you to have to do that. Just print it in black and white. That's all you need for in class, because you'll have the color versions up here. Okay? And anytime you need to go back, you can always go back and look at them electronically that way. Do you need to print all 70 pages tonight? No. You can print Unit 1 today and have that ready for tomorrow. That'll be lots. But that's on you to print, okay? I'm not going through and printing notes each and every day anymore. I killed about like 5 acres of forest every semester doing that, and I decided I couldn't live with myself anymore, okay? So yeah, you guys can print that, okay? Because we're using Google Classroom, a lot of the stuff is just going to be electronic, okay? I very rarely print handouts other than worksheets anymore, okay? So you won't get a heck of a lot of paper from me. All right, so that's how you use the website. Like I said, there's lots of stuff on there. Okay, there's basically a folder for every unit. Okay, there's stuff in there for your parents because they'll get an email from me later on in the week. Okay, all of that stuff can be found there. Okay, the YouTube channel. Take out your phone right now. By the way, I have no problem with you having a phone in my class as long as it's being used responsibly. In fact, often I will have you have it out doing something with it, okay? As long as you're using it responsibly. If I find you Snapchatting, or something like that, then obviously I'll I won't be very happy about that. Okay, what I want you to do is do a search for Coderre Science 10. Okay, that's my YouTube channel. So go to open up your YouTube app, okay, search Coderre Science 10 and subscribe to that. That way, whenever I post a new video, you'll get that little bubble notification that says Coderre Science 10 has uploaded a new video, okay, and that'll be the lesson for the day. Do you need to watch every lesson every day? No, you don't. You're probably here for it, okay? Are they good for review? Absolutely, right? They're especially useful if it's a lab, because I usually give pretty detailed instructions / hints / answers sometimes for the lab reports. It is always a good idea to watch the podcast of a lab or assignment while doing said lab or assignment, because you usually get a pretty good idea of what's expected that way. And if you ask anyone who took my course before, they'll tell you you should definitely do that. All right, so once you get subscribed to that, okay, then you're good for YouTube, right? For 2.3 there, okay, as it says, each day I'll post the day's activities, a link to the day's podcast, developments, notes, etc. on Google Classroom. Okay, I'm not going to blow up your phone with that kind of stuff, right? It's going to be one post, maybe two a day, and that's it. So you get like 1 or 2 emails from Google Classroom per day from me, okay? And most of the time you'll probably just delete it because you were here that day and you don't need it, all right? But if you weren't here, then it's pretty important. Okay. For 2.4, okay, by using the above resources, you should always return to class caught up with your classmates. I mean, I understand. People get sick and you miss class. I get it, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. But what I do expect is that when you come back, that you're ready to go, okay? I mean, unless you're in a coma, you should be able to watch the podcast and come back the next day and at least have some idea what we did, right? The thing that I do not want to hear is when you come back and you go, hey, Mr. Coderre, what did I miss? My answer will always be the same. A lot. Because if you don't know what you missed, you didn't do your part of the deal, okay? Which is you watched the podcast and then came back, okay? Now, if you come back and go, Mr. Coderre, I watched the podcast and there's this one thing I don't get. Can we do that? No problem. Absolutely. Okay? We can do that. That's what review is all about. But that's your part of the job, okay? That's your job to get caught up, come back and go, Mr. Coderre, I didn't understand this part. No problem. Okay, everybody follow me there. All right, so if you're gone, okay, make sure you're using that. If you're going to be on holidays, okay, and you're going to miss 2 weeks of school, while you're gone, your assignments are due for you. Okay, and they're due at the same time they're due for everybody else. Okay, so just be aware of that. Okay, being away does not get you out of doing stuff, nor doing it on time. Okay, it's called the World Wide Web for a reason. They have it everywhere. Unless you're living with the bush people in Africa or something like that, then you might not have Wi-Fi. Okay. All right. Questions about how that's going to work? All right, so that takes care of number 2. Okay, for section 3 here, okay, basically classroom norms and behaviors and expectations. Okay, the biggest thing is respect. I will treat you with respect. Okay, I will not single you out and embarrass you and humiliate you in front of your classmates. Okay, I expect that you treat your classmates in a similar fashion. Okay, there's no teasing, bullying, and things like that go on. We don't tolerate that kind of stuff around here. Okay, so please make sure you're treating everybody with respect. This is somewhere where we should all feel safe, included, and welcome. Okay, if you hear the words "listen up," that's my cue to you that I need your eyes forward and your ears both free of cords, okay, so that I have your full and undivided attention. Okay? It's either going to be like, listen up, we're going to get started, this is what we're doing today, or listen up, we got to go across the hall and start the lab, or listen up, there's a fire over there and we need to get out of here now, okay, something like that. I need your full and undivided attention. Okay? If I have trouble getting that, then I usually ask you to step outside where I can have your full and undivided attention later. Okay? All right, 3.3 has to do with work. There's a lot of work in Science 10. Okay, this is your first academic science. We cover a lot of stuff. Okay, not all of it comes in for marks. Okay, you're periodically going to get worksheets, okay, that we'll work on as a class where you can ask questions. You know, if you don't get something, that's your chance to get help in class. If you don't get it done in class, the expectation is that you do it at home, even if I'm not taking it in, right? Because I'm the guy that made up the worksheets. I'm the guy that makes up the tests. It's a good idea to do as many of my examples as possible. Okay? It's not meaning that you're going to have to go home and spend 6 hours every night on science. That's not the expectation. If you're doing that, you're probably going to do really, really well, but I don't expect that. Okay? You should have a life outside of school. Okay? So just the expectation is if I give you something in class, get it done. The stuff that comes in for marks, okay, that definitely has to get done. Okay? If I find that you're starting to collect a lot of NHIs, that's not handed ins in your grade book, okay, those count for zeros, they hurt you bad. If I get too many of those in yours, then we suddenly become really good buddies. And you spend a lot of time in here with me until all of the assignments are done. Okay? You do not get out of doing work in this class. Okay? All right. Now, other thing that goes along with that is exams. There's no rewrites in the science department at Holy Trinity Academy. Okay? You have all kinds of opportunities to come in and get help and ask for help and get clarification. You have podcasts that you can use to review materials. You have quizzes you can use to review. Okay? You are given ample time to prepare for a unit exam. I usually give between 10 days and 2 weeks notice of a unit exam. Okay? That's lots of time to start looking over things and coming in and asking questions. There is no reason for you to need a rewrite. Thus, you will not get one. Okay? So don't just go, oh, well, I didn't really have time to study. That's okay. I'll just do crappy and then do a rewrite. No, you will not. Okay? This is real life. Okay? If you become a brain surgeon and you screw up, somebody dies. There's no do-over on that. Okay? There are no do-overs in Science 10 either. Okay. Now, if for some reason you do not do well on an exam, okay, then you come in and we spend some time together reviewing the stuff, okay, that you didn't get right so that I can ensure that you will get it right the second time you are assessed on it, which will be in June, okay, on the final exam. Okay, 3.4, fairness versus equality. Okay, I always treat everybody as fair as possible, but that is not going to mean always that you are treated equally. Everybody has a different situation going on in their life. Okay, so because I give you one answer and I give somebody else a different answer doesn't mean I'm being unfair to you. Right? Everybody's got a different situation. The example I always use happened to me about 9 years ago or so. I had an assignment that was due. Everybody handed it in except for 2 people. And they came out to my desk, and the first guy, to his credit, was very honest with me. He said, Mr. Kader, I don't have it done. And I said, why not? And he said, well, the season finale of my favorite show was on last night, and I watched it, and I didn't do my homework. And I'm like, well, how long was the season finale of your show? Like, did it take all night? No, then I went to bed. Well, I mean, to his credit, he was honest. He just didn't do it. Okay? Shouldn't have left it till the last minute, but he did, and then he didn't do it. So I said, fine, you have to get it done still, but you're taking the late penalty, which we'll talk about later. Okay? The second person looked like she was going to collapse into a puddle on the floor behind him. Like, she looked like she would have to get better to die. She looked that bad. Okay? And so I said, so what's the problem? She said, well, I don't have it done. She said, I left it till the last minute. And then last night, my parents had this huge fight, and they both stormed out of the house, and I had to make dinner for my 3 little brothers. And I took chicken out of the freezer, and I didn't cook it enough. And we all spent the whole night throwing up. So I don't have my homework done. And so I had to be a little bit of a jerk. And I said, you're right, you shouldn't have left it till the last minute, because that's when disaster strikes, always when you leave something for the last minute. I said, but obviously those are kind of extenuating circumstances. You know, hope everything works out. Please have it to me tomorrow. So I told one person, you're taking a late penalty. I'm not accepting it without that. And the other person I said, no, I'll let you have an extra day. Okay? I think I was being fair, but I wasn't being equal. One of them got a late penalty, the other didn't. Okay? Now, again, this comes down to respect. I hope that you have enough respect that you're not going to come up and give me an Oscar-worthy performance complete with tears about how you didn't get your assignment done. Okay? Taking one late penalty isn't the end of the world. Okay? Get it done. Man up and take your late penalty, as the case may be. Okay? Things like that. All right? So I will always try and be as fair as possible. If you ever feel that I haven't been fair to you, then you come and talk to me about it. All right. And lastly, for 3.5 here, is accountability, okay? High school is the start of real life, and you are responsible for your actions, okay, and your own academic success, okay? Due dates and timelines are part of your reality. You guys have so many tools available to you for keeping track of things that we didn't have when I was your age. Okay? We had those agenda books, and that was like the best tool you could get for keeping track of when things were due. Okay? Your phones will email you and remind you and all that kind of stuff, and of course you guys never go anywhere without them. Okay? So please understand that I have very little leeway in terms of you getting your stuff done and getting it done on time. Okay, those are the expectations. They're not unreasonable. Okay, I never make something due the next day. Okay, because that's unreasonable, right? If I want you to develop good time management skills and things like that, then it's unfair for me to just dump a 3-page assignment on you for a 12-hour turnaround. Okay, that's not right. So nothing will ever be due sooner than 2 school days. That doesn't mean you get 2 classes to work on it, but 2 school days. So usually it ends up being more than that because usually a weekend interrupts it and things like that. So generally, you're going to have lots of time to get things done. Okay. So for your marks, okay, assessment and evaluation. The first thing is that I am not going to discuss your mark with you on anything in front of the rest of the class. If you want to talk to me about your mark, okay, and I mean, sometimes I make a mistake when I'm marking a multiple choice, okay, something like that, maybe something like that. Come and talk to me after class, okay? Don't talk to me in front of everybody else, right? That just never works out well, right? I once had a kid, and this is why I have this policy. I handed back a lab, and he came up to the front in front of 30 people and went, Coder, that mark sucks. And everybody in the room's eyes got as big as dinner plates. And I tried to inner calm myself, and I just said, yeah, you're right. That mark does suck. Sit down, shut up. I'm not going to talk to you about that, especially if you're going to come up to me like that, okay? We both got a save face, but you don't get to, because this is my house, okay? And yeah, I get to win. It's kind of nice, right? But yeah, I'm not going to talk about your mark. Never now. You come up and challenge me like that. I'm not going to talk to you about it, okay? But if you come up to me, after class and say, Mr. Coder, I thought I did a pretty good job on this. I don't really understand where I went wrong. No problem. I'm happy to explain it. Most of the time, in fact, all of the time, when I return something, I go over the whole thing, okay? So you'll have a pretty good idea of why you got the mark you got, okay? But if you still have questions, then you come up in an appropriate time and ask, okay? And I can be reasonable. Doesn't mean I'm going to change your mark, but I'll be reasonable, okay? All right, 4.2, we'll talk about the course syllabus here in a minute, but there's a marks distribution percentages for everything, okay? 4.3, assignments and labs are to be handed in on time. I will always accept late assignments, but they are not going to be graded at their full value. The late penalty is 25%, okay? There's a couple of reasons for that. First off, I don't want you working on it in class and missing whatever I teach that day. Okay? As soon as it's late, it's late. You can't get it to me by the end of the day. Okay? As you can see in 4.4, assignments and labs are due at the start of class on the due date. Okay? If they're not done by then, they're late. All right? So wait till you get home to do it. It's not going to get more late. I don't believe in that 10% a day thing. Then I have to keep track. Okay? Don't like that. In my mind, there's late and on time. It's like alive and dead. You're one or the other, okay? There aren't different degrees, okay? So if it's late, just get it done at home and hand it in to me the next day or whenever, if it's Google Classroom, as soon as you have it done, okay? But don't do it in class, then you're missing out on more stuff, okay? The other reason is you will get all of your assignments back the next day, always. I have failed to do that once in 16 years of teaching. My son was born, and my second son was born, and I didn't get the assignments marked, okay? I did have them the next day after that, okay? That was the one time that I didn't get something marked, all right? So the expectation is you get it done on time, you're going to get it back right away, and we're going to go over it right away. While it's fresh in your mind, that's when it's most valuable, all right? So if I can put a one-day turnaround on myself, you guys can get stuff done, okay, in a minimum 2-day turnaround. Most of the time it'll be more than that, okay? Everybody clear on that? Okay. Okay, so obviously I'll still accept late assignments. In fact, if you have a whole bunch that are overdue, then you're going to come in and spend time with me and get them all done, and I'll still mark them. But obviously, since I'll have already gone over the whole thing, it can't be worth its full value anymore. Okay, because I don't know whether you knew all of that or whether you just sat there and wrote it all down. Okay, can't be worth as much. It's not fair to everybody else. Okay, questions on that? Okay, now that goes for you, like I said, if you are away. Okay? If you are away when something is due, you can still submit it through Google Classroom. Almost everything you do will be submitted that way. Okay? You can still get it done and submit it through Google Classroom even if you're not here. That is the expectation. Okay. All right. There's 4 units in Science 10. Okay. We'll start out with energy and matter and chemical change, or as we like to call it, chemistry. Okay, the first part will be a bit of review, naming compounds, things like that. Okay, from there we move on to properties of compounds. We do a lab where we identify unknowns. Okay, then we move into chemical reactions, properties of water. Okay, we look at how to write chemical reactions, how to balance them, how to predict them, and then at the end of the unit we look at molar amounts. Okay, which is how we measure amounts of chemical compounds, looking at kind of like numbers of atoms and things like that. Okay, this unit typically takes us about a month, maybe a tad bit more. So expect that with our week off there in February, or 2 weeks from now, this is going to be middle to end of March, okay, before we're done this unit. Okay. After that, we've got cycling of matter in living systems, as we call it, biology. Okay, we go over the parts of the cell. We look at how cells and multicellular organisms transport materials, how certain processes within the cell are used at a large organism level. We have a bunch of labs, 2 where we use the microscopes, and 1 where we cut up a plant and things like that. So there's a lot of activities within that unit. That one typically takes about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. Okay, so expect that we'd be done that one sometime around the middle, probably about the end of April, because Easter is the last week of March this year. So, okay, probably end of April before we'd be done that one. Okay, energy flow and technological systems is physics. Okay, that one's going to take 4 or 5, sometimes even 6 weeks. Okay, I'm a physics guy, so I tend to spend more time on that one. Plus, it also tends to be a bit difficult, as that got the most math in it, right? So there's a bit of algebra and things like that that'll be required in both chemistry and in physics, but more so in physics. So that one will finish up probably right around the end of May, okay, to beginning of June. The last unit, energy flow and global systems, is kind of a hodgepodge of lots of different things, and we typically get through that one real fast. I've taught it in as few as 4 days. Okay, I don't like to have to do it that fast, but sometimes that happens. Okay, there's no real continuation of that unit. Hopefully we'll have 2 weeks to do it, but okay, we'll see how everything goes. So you'll have a unit exam for each one. Okay, that means the last unit exam, because the unit is so short, does tend to be a pretty good opportunity right before the final exam to boost your mark a little bit, okay, because it's worth the same amount as all the others. Okay. So your marks distribution, your unit exams will be worth 25% of your final mark. Okay, so each one is worth a little more than 5%. Labs, assignments, projects, your class work, 45% of your final grade. Okay, the good news about that 45%. If you're working on an assignment and it's not due yet, you have it done a little bit early, you can bring it in and we'll look over it together, okay? So if you come in scheduled help and say, Mr. Cook, can we look over my lab? I'll call it up in Google Classroom and go through it with you, give you little tips and pointers. Sometimes we misunderstand a question. You don't want to get something wrong because you misunderstood what it was asking, okay? I want you to be able to show me what you know, right? So feel free, come in, ask for me to review your stuff, and I'll do it. Okay, we can review it together. You'll learn more that way, and you'll get a better mark, right? So there's something in it for you, right? Usually at the beginning of the semester, people aren't real keen on that idea, but by the end of the semester, it's like 80 to 85% of people are doing it. Okay, maybe just start that way. Okay, start off on the right foot. I'm happy to go over your stuff with you before it's due. Right? Don't come into me the morning it's due. I won't look over it then. Okay? But the day before, okay, 2 days before, if you've got it done and shown me, hey, it was important enough for me to get done early and get it reviewed, happy to do it. Also, don't email me at like 11:30 at night and go, hey, Mr. Critter, I just got done my lab. Can you look at it? Because I'll kill you. Okay? Yeah, I'll be asleep by then. I'm an old man. Okay, I have to sleep more than you guys do. All right, so yeah, don't don't do that. Okay, come in. We'll do that in person. Okay, I'm happy to do that in person with you and look over your stuff. Okay, quizzes, 10% of your final grade. And like I said, every Tuesday, every Thursday, starting next week, and you get those ahead of time. Okay, Monday right after school, Wednesday right after school. They'll be posted on Google Classroom. Open them up, have a look at them. Do them. Shouldn't take you more than like 5 or 10 minutes most of the time to do those quizzes. Okay, then you come in the next day and it's exactly the same quiz. All right, it's just a good way to review things periodically. Then your final exam in June is 20% of your final grade. Okay, so it's a chunk. It's not as big as it used to be. Okay, when they lowered the diploma exams down to 30%, we kind of had to drop our final exam percentages down a little bit. Pretty hard to expect your Science 10 final to be worth the same as a diploma exam, so they're worth a little less than they used to be. Okay, and then the going green part here, that has to do with you guys need to print the notes package tonight. Okay, so make sure you make a note to yourself to do that so that you have it for tomorrow. You'll get very little paper from me other than worksheets. Okay. You'll get a couple of things here or there. Lab sheets I very rarely even photocopy because you're going to get those in Google Classroom. You'll have the Chromebooks to look at and things like that. So yeah, you're not going to get a lot of paper from me. Other questions that usually come up. Can I have food and drink in here? Yes, you can. Okay, I'm fine with that. But if you make a mess, it's your responsibility to clean it up. If you come in here and you have the breakfast of champions, a 2-liter bottle of Coke and a 500-gram bag of Doritos, I'll probably give you a nutrition lecture. Okay, but yeah, you can have food and drink in here. That's fine. Yes, you can have your phone in here. I'm okay with that as well. Again, as long as you're using it responsibly. If it's becoming a distraction for you, then I may have to remove that distraction. Okay, but most of the time we have them out and we're using them. A lot of people just follow along on the notes package. They don't even bother printing it out. They just follow along on their tablet or computer or sometimes their phone. You guys are going to have all kinds of vision problems when you get older because I see you guys always doing that. But yeah, okay, that's up to you. If you want to do it that way and save some trees, I'm okay with that too. There's actually a couple of apps that you can use where you can even write in them on your phone. Notability is one of them, but you have to pay for that one. I think there's a couple of free ones too, where you can actually write right on the PDF on your phone or tablet. If you're interested in that, that's fine too. Okay, and if you actually want to have the paper, I know some people find comfort in dead trees in their notebook. That's fine too. Okay. Can you listen to music in here? From time to time, yes. If I'm teaching something actively, like right now, then no. Okay, I expect both ears to be open. Okay, but if you're doing seat work, working on something, giving you time to practice something, and you need to isolate yourself so you can concentrate, I'm okay with that. Okay, then you can listen to them at that point. What else? Oh, if there's a fire drill or real fire, heaven forbid. Okay, our fire exit has changed. When they put the kindergarten portables on, that took away our fire exit. So we have to go all the way through the atrium and out the front doors. That is our main fire exit. Okay, we do not go out those doors because those doors are already at capacity, emptying the 8 portable classrooms that are in the science wing down there. So it's actually faster for us to go out the front doors. We meet right at the kind of end here of the student parking lot. Okay, just past the big sculpture. All right, so that's where we meet if there is a fire drill. Okay, garbage and recycling is at the back of the classroom there. Bathrooms. Since the kindergarten kids are here, these bathrooms are now off limits for us. So the nearest bathrooms are in the atrium. Please use those ones. Walk quickly. Okay, I've seen people that head upstairs for some reason. That's a lot farther. Okay. Okay, these ones are nice and close. Okay, so use those ones. Also, periodically, the kindergarten kids, they all go to the bathroom at the same time. Okay, so they come in here and it gets a little bit noisy. Just kind of have to deal with it. That's typically why I keep the door shut, just because it gets, I mean, teaching kindergarten is like trying to hold back the ocean with a broom. Okay, like you just try and keep your head above water most of the time. So it gets a little bit noisy, okay, when they're out there. But you just have to kind of deal with it a bit. Okay. All right. Any questions from you guys? Okay. then we'll get started on the course material. So hang on to that. Okay.